Justice Mohammed Garba Umar of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja on Friday apparently rejected the plans by the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun, to stop the upcoming Monday, October 20th planned mass protests by Nigerians to demand the release of the detained Biafra Republic agitation leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, but, according to the organizer of the protest, Omoyele Sowore, after the judge initially declined to grant the Nigeria police force an ex-parte motion to stop the planned protest in the open court, the Federal High Court judge, Justice Umar, reportedly granted the motion in chambers, imposing a ban on protests at Aso Rock Villa, National Assembly, or Unity Fountain in Abuja. We await a certified true copy of the order, which our lawyers will review. The protest remains unstoppable. While this is ongoing, the United States, U.S. Embassy in Nigeria has warned American citizens to be far from the protest areas and limit their movements in the Nigeria capital city, Abuja, saying, the planned protest may lead to disruptions and violence. Detailed of the court action as captured by Punch newspaper. The Federal High Court in Abuja has refused the Nigeria police force's bid to stop the Free Nnamdi Kanu protest, allowing it to proceed as scheduled on Monday, October 20, 2025. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, had dispatched police lawyers to the court to move an ex-parte motion against activist and protest organizer, Omoyele Sowore, in a bid to legally preempt the planned demonstration slated for the Aso Rock Villa. However, Justice Umar of the Federal High Court, Abuja, declined to grant the motion, which would have immediately restrained the protest from taking place without hearing the opposing side. The judge instead instructed the police to formally serve notice of their application on Sowore and adjourned the case until Tuesday for a proper, contested hearing. Reacting to the judicial decision, the protest convener, Omoyele Sowore, affirmed the court's decision as a victory for civil liberties and doubled down on the scheduled protest. In a statement issued on his X handle on Friday following the ruling, Sowore said, IG of Police, Nigeria, Kayode Egbetokun dispatched police lawyers to sue me, in an effort to halt the Free Nnamdi Kanu protest scheduled for Aso Rock Villa on Monday. However, the judge, Justice Umar of Federal High Court in Abuja, refused to grant the ex-parte motion, instead instructing him to serve me notice and adjourning the case until Tuesday for a proper hearing. The demonstration, organized under the hashtag Free Nnamdi Kanu, is intended to draw attention to the prolonged detention and legal fate of Kanu. The police action was seen as an attempt to leverage the courts to prevent a potentially sensitive gathering near the seat of Nigerian power. The adjournment to Tuesday ensures that the planned Monday protest is not currently constrained by a court order, setting the stage for a potential high-profile confrontation between protesters and security agencies around the presidential villa. Channels Television also on Friday reported that, ahead of the Free Nnamdi Kanu protest slated for Monday, October 20th in the nation's capital, the U.S. Embassy in Abuja has issued a security alert to Americans. In a statement published on its website on Friday, the embassy cautioned that the protest could lead to disruptions and potential violence. The embassy advised U.S. citizens to steer clear of the protest areas and limit their movement across the city. The U.S. Embassy in Abuja informs U.S. citizens that the Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest has called for peaceful demonstrations on Monday, October 20, 2025, in Abuja. There may be roadblocks, traffic, congestion, and confrontations between police and protesters that could turn violent around Eagle Square and the Central Business District. The embassy advises all U.S. citizens to avoid this area and to severely limit all movement throughout the city on Monday, October 20th, the statement read in part. The embassy recommended that children stay home from school and that domestic staff who commute from outside Abuja do not report to work on that day. It also called on all Americans in Nigeria to take heightened security precautions. The planned protest was announced by activist and former presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Omoyele Sowore, on his X account on October 9th. Sowore stated that the protest would take place on October 20th and be directed toward the Aso Rock presidential villa. He described it as a historic and peaceful demonstration aimed at securing the release of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. Kanu, who is currently facing terrorism charges at the Federal High Court in Abuja, has been in custody since June 2021 following his controversial extradition from Kenya. But shortly after the aforesaid media reports, Omoyele Sowore, in a statement through his social media accounts on Friday, said that, after failing to obtain a legitimate court order to halt the unstoppable Free Nnamdi Kanu protest, the Nigeria police force has now resorted to a fresh wave of panic-driven measures. In Ondo State, police authorities have reportedly ordered that officers sympathetic to the movement be confined to their barracks, an action that exposes the deep unease within the system. Rather than engage with the legitimate and peaceful demands of citizens, the police are turning their energy toward internal repression and fear tactics, a clear sign that the movement's message has struck a nerve. The people are awake, and the movement remains unstoppable. In another statement on Friday accompanied with video footage, Omoyele Sowore said, earlier today, the Nigeria Police Force, FCT Command invited Barrister Maxwell Opara to discuss the planned Free Nnamdi Kanu protest. Upon our arrival at the command's entrance, we were abruptly stopped by a police contingent stationed at the gate. Officers claimed the new commissioner of police was resuming duty and could not attend to visitors until after his official resumption rituals. When we were eventually allowed through, the senior police officer, Habib Mohammed, who had extended the invitation, met us and presented a copy of the organizer's letter seeking police protection. Barrister Maxwell Opara had not arrived at that point, a letter filed by Barrister Opara as legal representative of the protest movement. But the tone of the meeting shifted quickly after the senior police officer Mohammed received a phone call. He informed us that the Deputy Commissioner of Police, DCP, in charge of the State Intelligence Department, SID, wished to meet us. When we arrived at his office, he expressed surprise at my presence at the FCT command, claiming that no invitation had been extended to me personally. He remained polite, and we left courteously. Shortly after, Barrister Maxwell Opara arrived to the Supol's office, where the conversation turned tense. The officer issued a veiled threat, warning that Barrister Opara would be held responsible if anything goes wrong anywhere in Abuja on Monday. Barrister Opara reminded him that this was precisely why the organizers had sent a formal notification to ensure a peaceful and lawful demonstration. The officer reportedly began shouting, and the meeting ended abruptly. According to Barrister Opara, it became clear that they did not want me present because they were seeking someone they could intimidate. Not long after we left the command, the illegal IGP directed police lawyers to obtain a court order to stop the protest. However, the Federal High Court judge declined to grant the order in open court. It was later reported that a limited purpose order was issued, but no such order has been served on the organizers. The Free Nnamdi Kanu protest is unstoppable. We are proceeding as planned, peacefully, lawfully, and with unwavering resolve, Omoyele Sowore stated.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Whenever controversies surround Rufai Aseni, the outspoken and fearless broadcaster on Arise Television, one recurring argument often resurfaces in public discourse: the claim that Rufai Aseni is not a journalist. Critics are quick to emphasize that he lacks a formal academic background in journalism, having originally trained in animal anatomy. But beyond the semantics of qualification, a deeper question emerges. What truly defines a journalist, and what are the core functions of journalism in society? As mass communication teacher, we teach students from the very first class that the media exists to inform, educate, entertain, and preserve cultural heritage. Journalists also play the crucial roles of agenda setting and acting as watchdogs, holding public officials accountable and amplifying the voices of the governed. The media's capacity to shape national conversations is immense. By highlighting specific issues and giving them prominence, journalists help raise awareness and influence public perception. It is through such agenda-setting functions that societies engage in dialogue, debate, and reform. thereby playing participatory role in the process of governance. When examined through this functional lens, it becomes clear that Rufai Sani has consistently fulfilled these journalistic responsibilities over the years. His incisive questioning, fearless commentary, and commitment to public accountability have made him one of the most recognizable broadcast personalities in contemporary Nigerian media. A notable example is his now famous exchange with the Minister of Works, Engineer Dave Umahi, on Arise Television. Before that encounter, few Nigerians had publicly interrogated the cost per kilometer of road construction projects executed by government agencies. While the minister initially dismissed Rufai's question as elementary, the issue soon gained traction nationally. In fact, subsequent clarifications by Umahi, and even a public response by Oyo State Governor, Seyi Makinde, demonstrated that Asani's line of questioning had forced an important accountability conversation into the mainstream. Through this singular act, Rufai did what the media are mandated to do: hold power accountable, enlighten the public, and stimulate civic engagement. It is true that a formal qualification, such as a diploma or degree in journalism, is generally considered a prerequisite for professional practice. Yet, history tells a different story about the Nigerian press. Many of the country's most celebrated media pioneers, from Herbert Macaulay to Ernest Akoli, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and Obafemi Awolowo, were not trained journalists in the academic sense. Nevertheless, through passion, intellect, and experience, they became towering figures in the nation's journalistic landscape. In the decades that followed, major Nigerian newspapers like The Guardian, The Punch, The Tribune, and the defunct National Concord were edited by professionals whose backgrounds spanned literature, political science, law, and the humanities, not necessarily journalism. What mattered was their adherence to journalistic ethics and commitment to truth. Today, journalism is evolving faster than ever. The rise of social and digital media has democratized information dissemination, giving birth to citizen journalism, a space where individuals, regardless of academic background, can contribute meaningfully to public discourse. The boundaries of professional journalism have expanded, now encompassing voices trained in diverse disciplines but committed to the principles of truth, balance, and fairness. In this context, Rufai Sani's 2 decades of consistent broadcast experience, his engagement with media ethics, and his pursuit of professional development courses, all reinforce his credibility. His work reflects a mastery of journalism's essence, even if his educational roots lie elsewhere. The debate over Rufai Sani's academic background may continue, but it misses the more profound point. Journalism is as much a calling as it is a profession. It demands curiosity, courage, critical thinking, and an unwavering commitment to public interest. By these measures, Rufai Sani has proven himself a journalist, not by certificate, but by conviction and consistent service to society. Writer Isa Abdulaziz, Mass Communication Lecturer, Federal Polytechnic, Auchi.
Minister, I would like to interject. This monologue is quite long. So, at first, Minister, after you had gone to report me in front of President Tinubu and said all sorts, anyway, I am not beholden to you. My job is accountability.
You are too small for me to report you to the President.
No, but they are empirical. Too small. Minister, let me speak. Minister, let me speak. I have empirical evidence. The world watched it on the commissioner of the project when you mentioned the questions I asked you to the president. That was reporting me to the president officially. The world watches, so you don't need to dilly-dally about the empirical facts. I don't talk without facts, Minister. You know, when I have my facts, I talk. And I insist on my question when I ask on cost.
Let me only address you.
Minister, you will not allow me speak. The problem is you will not allow me speak. You spoke for over 20 minutes, over 10 minutes.
Because you don't know what you are speaking.
But let me speak. Let me speak. You will not. You will not allow me speak. You see, if you can just keep quiet and be calm and just allow me speak, I'll be happy. All right. So my question still persists as regards the cost per kilometer. You cannot tell me that we don't have a right to know the cost per kilometer. Even if it's an undulating landscape, give us all the facts and the details of the cost per kilometer. That's all we'll ask for. Other questions as regards the loans taken. Let me finish.
No. I will
Let
keep
me
quiet
finish.
for you to damage
Let me
information.
finish.
Listen to me.
Minister, you will
Listen
not
to
allow me to speak. The minister will not allow me to speak.
No. Don't do that with me.
Minister will not
Don't do
allow
that
me
with
to
me.
speak.
I was in your studio.
Minister will not
and
allow
when
me
the
to
first
speak.
section was on, and I ran the figures. And what you're asking us is 750 kilometers of coastal highway. We should tell you cost per kilometer. So you multiply by 750. That's nonsensical.
No, so tell me the cost per kilometer. There's nothing too hard for you to tell me that figure. You've not still told me that figure, so I was right on that point. The second point,
because you don't understand anything.
The second point I'm trying to make is
You don't understand anything. I'm a professor in this field.
Okay.
You don't understand anything.
What university gave you professorship in this field?
You cannot ask me to tell you a cost.
What university gave you professorship in engineering? I didn't know you were Professor Mai, Minister. I didn't know. So please, you've not been able to. You've never.
I'm professor in practice.
In practice.
I'm professor
okay.
in practice.
Okay.
I understand engineering very well.
So secondly,
and you have no knowledge of what you're asking.
If you will let me,
you have no knowledge.
If you will let me ask.
So you keep quiet.
Okay.
And then stop.
Okay.
You know.
Minister, it's all right. Keep dignifying yourself and let the world see you for who you are. If you allow me speak. The other 100 kilometers that you said they've added to it, we would like to know the cost per kilometer of that one. And the Winsome Homes, the case is in court. Now, I would like to know the cost per kilometer for that one. I would like to also know the over 700 billion first tranche of loan you guys got for this project. Has the money been spent? How was the money deployed? I would also like to know. I would also like to know the terms of that loan. All right, how many years? What's the payback period? What's the payback term of that loan? And for the Winsome Homes, isn't it interesting that as somebody that's been a governor in the state, you know the law, a case is in court, and then you're coming to talk about the details of the cases in court. Because you denied that the case was not in court, now you've already accepted that the case is in court. So is it not just better you thrash it out with the woman that has been reporting a case in public that we all heard, and I ask you questions based on that? So, Minister, just answer the questions. I've got no axe to grind with you. You know that. We've spoken many times. In fact, when your people call to book, I booked them, and I said you should come on air. So please just tell us those information. It's very important, Minister.
I'm not hearing, even though this guy is not.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Nigerian Army Authority has issued a statement denying threat messages issued against members of the public ahead of the planned mass protest slated for October 20, 2025 to demand for the release and freedom of the detained Biafra Republic agitation leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, just as the organizer and chief campaigner, Omoyele Sowore, the publisher of Sahara Reporters news media, met to seek understanding with the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who, according to Sowore, promised to visit President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to discuss the issue with him. Nigerian Army, in a statement on Friday, said, "The attention of the Nigerian Army, NA, has been drawn to a misleading publication by Sahara Reporters alleging that a Facebook page purportedly operated by military personnel issued veiled threats against certain individuals ahead of a planned October 20th protest. The report is not only false but a deliberate attempt to misinform the public and discredit the noble institution of the Nigerian Army. For the avoidance of doubt, the Nigerian Army has only two official social media handles, namely at HQ Nigerian Army and at Nigerian Army Info, which are duly verified on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Any other page or account outside these verified handles does not belong to the Nigerian Army and should be disregarded in its entirety. It is pertinent to state that certain civilians and online content creators now operate pages that post military-related contents purely for the purpose of generating online traffic and monetary gain. Such pages have no affiliation whatsoever with the Nigerian Army. The NA therefore dissociates itself completely from any post, statement, or activity emanating from these unauthorized sources. The Nigerian Army remains a professional, disciplined and apolitical institution committed to the defense and unity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In the discharge of its constitutional responsibilities, the NA continues to uphold the highest standards of professionalism, adherence to the rule of law, and respect for human rights. The general public and media practitioners are hereby enjoined to verify all information concerning the Nigerian Army only through its official platforms or the Directorate of Army Public Relations before publication or dissemination. The Nigerian Army therefore urges Sahara reporters and other media outlets to exercise due diligence in verifying the authenticity of their sources to avoid the spread of falsehood capable of misleading the public and undermining national security. Omoyele Sowore, in a statement made available through his personal social media accounts on Friday, said that, "Earlier today in Abuja, I met with former President Goodluck Jonathan to discuss the continued incarceration of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. President Jonathan agreed that there is an urgent and compelling need to address this matter decisively and justly. I thank him sincerely for recognizing the importance of resolving Kanu's case in the interest of peace, fairness, and national healing. Particularly assuring was that he promised to meet Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to discuss this issue as soon as possible." With this, former President Jonathan joins a growing list of Nigerians who have called for justice in Nnamdi Kanu's case, a list that already includes ex-Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Femi Falana, San, Senator Shehu Sani, and many others across political and regional divides. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu remains in detention today because he took up the just cause of confronting the long-standing issue of marginalization in Nigeria. Like other ethnic and regional activists whose politically motivated cases have been withdrawn or dismissed, Nnamdi Kanu should also be released without further delay. I once again call on all political, cultural, ethnic, and religious leaders across Nigeria to join this noble cause. In particular, I invite my brothers and sisters from the Southeast, Mr. Peter Obi, Charles Chukwuma Soludo, Alex Ciotti, Francis Nwaifaru, Peter Mbar, Hope Uzodinma, Obiageli Ezekwesili, John Mbata of Ohaneze and Igbo worldwide, as well as Nigerians of conscience everywhere, to lend their voices to the call for justice and freedom. Nnamdi Kanu should be set free, and I remain firmly committed to peacefully mobilizing for justice and freedom in this matter. On Thursday, Omoyele Sowore in a statement challenged the decision to set free and grant presidential state pardons to convicted individuals by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu without considering the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. According to Sowore, today, President Bola Tinubu extended pardons to a long list of convicted individuals, including a cocaine trafficker serving a life sentence, an alleged coup plotter, Maman Vatsa, the late Nnamdi Azikiwe and Herbert Macaulay, and even Farouk Lawan, the former lawmaker convicted for taking bribes on tape. He also pardoned other known fraudsters and corrupt politicians. Yet, in all of this, Tinubu refuses to even consider the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who has been unjustly detained for years despite multiple court orders mandating his freedom. It is a glaring hypocrisy. Criminals and political thieves are forgiven, celebrated, and rehabilitated, while a man demanding self-determination and justice remains behind bars and tossed around in courts with the pretense that somehow it is about law. Earlier, Sowore raised an alarm that the presidency is using DSS to contact and threaten politicians from the Southeast, warning them not to endorse the Free Nnamdi Kanu Now movement or participate in Free Nnamdi Kanu Now, the planned march to Aso Rock Villa. They've contacted some names mentioned in my postings to gaslight them, claiming the protest was to foment chaos and violence. They're terrified. However, we move forward and cannot be stopped.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria has accepted the resignation of the Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Jeffrey Uche-Naji, who had been accused of forging the degree certificate of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and the certificate of completion of service for the one-year mandatory National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, after he allegedly failed an exit course, virology, repeatedly at the university. Nigeria presidency, in a statement made available a few minutes ago by the presidential spokesperson, Bayo Onanuga, stated that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has accepted the resignation of Jeffrey Uche-Naji, the Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, following some allegations against him. President Tinubu appointed Naji in August 2023. He resigned today in a letter thanking the president for allowing him to serve Nigeria. Naji said he has been a target of blackmail by political opponents. President Tinubu thanked him for his service and wished him well in future endeavors. Earlier, Nigeria's state-controlled media, NTA, had reported that the Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Jeffrey Naji, has dismissed reports questioning his academic qualifications, describing them as politically motivated attempts to tarnish his image. The minister has firmly defended the authenticity of his University of Nigeria, Nsukka degree. Speaking through his spokesperson, Dr. Robert Ngwu, the minister said records from UNN confirm he graduated in July 1985 with a bachelor's degree in microbiology and biochemistry, second-class honors, lower division. He described recent reports denying his graduation as false, malicious, and politically driven, alleging that the controversy began after opposition figures took key positions within the university. Naji revealed that the Federal High Court in Abuja has issued protective orders restraining the university from tampering with his records and directing the release of his academic transcript. Reaffirming his focus on national service, the minister said no amount of political blackmail or media trial will distract him from advancing innovation and technology in Nigeria. He urged the University of Nigeria to uphold its motto, to restore the dignity of man, and resist being used for partisan purposes. In a swift reaction on Tuesday, Enugu state government denied sponsoring allegations of certificate forgery against the Minister of Innovation, Science, and Technology, Chief Uche Naji, urging him to carry his cross and clear his name before Nigerians. The government, in a press statement issued in Enugu on Monday by the Director of Information in the Ministry of Information and Communication, Mr. Chukwuemeka Nibo, said it had no hand whatsoever in the controversies surrounding the minister's academic records. The Enugu state government dissociates itself completely from these allegations. The honorable minister must carry his own cross and clear his name before Nigerians, instead of dragging the government into issues that are entirely personal to him, Mr. Nibo declared. The Director of Information recalled that Chief Naji had invited journalists to a world press conference scheduled for Monday at 2 p.m. to address the matter, but failed to show up. A large number of Nigerian and international journalists reportedly gathered on the minister's invitation to hear directly from him. But rather than appear before them to answer questions and establish his innocence, the minister absconded, leaving behind proxies who could not withstand the barrage of legitimate questions from journalists. Who can narrate Chief Naji's UNN story better than him? Why invite the media, only to outsource the conference? Why send third parties, who lack the answers to critical questions, if he truly has nothing to hide? Mr. Nibo queried. Did he, for his screening, present a purported degree certificate to the Senate showing that he graduated from the prestigious University of Nigeria, Nsukka, UNN, in July 1985? Is it true that he deposed in a federal high court filing in Abuja that he was not issued any degree certificate by UNN, and, if so, how did he come about the degree certificate he presented to the Senate? Is it also true that while he claims to have graduated in July 1985, he applied to the university to retake virology, course code, MCB 431, in the September 1985 supplementary examination, having failed the course? Is it also true that the university, in a November 8, 1985 letter, informed Uche Naji that he again failed virology, course code, MCB 431, in the supplementary examinations, but could register to retake the course in the June 1986 examinations, provided he paid an examination fee of 4 naira. Is it true that on January 3, 1986, he again applied to retake the virology, course code, MCB 431, examination in June 1986, stating in his letter that the receipt for the payment of the 4 naira receipt fee had been attached? Is it true that while he claims to be in possession of a university degree, he only submitted his secondary school WASC certificate to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for his participation in the 2023 governorship election. Why did Uche Naji's proxy state at the Abuja press conference that the minister graduated, while avoiding stating categorically that he was issued a degree certificate? Did he also present a purported NYSC discharge certificate showing that he commenced his national service in April 1985, 3 months before his supposed graduation, and served until July 1986, an unusual duration of 13 months instead of the usual 12 months of national service? Whereas the CEO of the NYSC at the time he claimed to have undergone the national service was Colonel Ede Akpan, January 1984 to December 1987, Uche Naji's NYSC discharge certificate was signed by Colonel Animashon Brimo, who was NYSC CEO from January 1988 to December 1990. Is it true that NYSC certificates issued up till October 1990 had 6-digit numbering devoid of alphabetic characters, but Uche Naji's discharge certificate, supposedly issued in 1986, was numbered A231309, which includes the alphabet A? And above all, is it a fact that he deposed to an affidavit in the suit he filed in court that UNN did not issue him any certificate? And if that is the case, Nigerians want to know how he came about the certificate he submitted to the Senate of his own free will in 2023. These are the clarifications Nigerians earnestly yearn for, and Chief Uche Naji is urged to brave up to clear his name, if he is truly innocent, rather than trading blames, Nebo stressed. Daily Post newspaper had reported that an Abuja Federal High Court has rejected a bid by the Minister of Innovation, Science, and Technology, Uche Naji, to stop the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, UNN, from releasing his academic records. The Minister of Education, National Universities Commission, NUC, UNN, the university's Vice-Chancellor, its Registrar and the Senate of the institution were listed as respondents in the suit. An application for interim injunction filed by the minister's lawyer asked the court to restrain the respondents from acting on a request for release of his academic records. However, Justice Hausa Yilwa turned down the application. The minister had prayed the court for an order granting leave to the applicant to issue the prerogative writ of prohibition on the 3th, 2, 5th and the 7th respondents, the VC, Registrar and Senate of the school, from tampering with or continuing to tamper with the applicant's academic records at UNN. The minister also prayed for an order granting him leave to issue the prerogative writ of mandamus compelling the 3rd, 2, 5th and the 7th respondents to release to him his academic transcript at the varsity. Other reliefs sought include an order granting leave to the applicant to issue the prerogative writ of mandamus compelling the 1st and 2nd respondents to ensure, utilizing their supervisory and disciplinary powers, that the 3rd, 2, 5th and the 7th respondents release to the applicant his academic transcript at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. An interim order of injunction restraining the 3rd, 2, 5th and the 7th respondents from tampering or continuing to tamper with the applicant's academic records at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, pending the determination of the substantive suit. In rejecting the application after listening to the counsel, the judge held, I have therefore perused the 34-paragraph affidavit and the 6-paragraph affidavit of urgency deposed to by the applicant, the grounds upon which this application is made, the exhibits attached thereto and the further affidavit of 6 paragraphs deposed to by Martin Luther Akawi. I have equally considered the written address of counsel. I shall therefore refer to paragraphs 15, 16, 22, 23, 24, 25 and 29 of the affidavit in support of this application, Exhibits 1, 2d and paragraphs 3, 4 and 5 of the further affidavit. I'm of the humble view from the facts deposed in the affidavits, alongside the exhibits attached, that the applicant has sufficient interest in the matter to which this application relates. Thus, this application is meritorious. Consequently, I hereby grant Prayer 1, 2 and 3 only. Prayer 4 is declined. Having been refused, the granting of reliefs 1, 2, 3 shall not serve as injunctive reliefs against any of the parties. UNN had disowned the minister's certificate in a letter addressed to Premium Times, written by the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Simon Orchunya. In the letter dated October 2, 2025, the university maintained that the minister did not complete his studies. We refer to your letter dated the 29th of September 2025 in respect of the above subject matter. We can confirm that Mr. Jeffrey Uchechukwu, with matriculation number 1981 30,725, was admitted by the University of Nigeria, Nsukka in 1981. From every available records and information from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, we are unable to confirm that Mr. Jeffrey Uchechukwu, the current Minister of Science and Technology, graduated from the University of Nigeria in July 1985, as there are no records of his completion of study in the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Flowing from above, the University of Nigeria, Nsukka did not and consequently, could not have issued the purported certificate, or at all, in July 1985 to Mr. Jeffrey Uchechukwu, the current Minister of Science and Technology. This conclusion is also in consonance with an earlier letter dated May 13, 2025, reference number, Run, SR-RV, issued by the University to the Public Complaints Commission in respect of the same subject matter, copy attached, Orchunya wrote.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Princess Ola Torera Maje Kadunmianiru from Ogun State and a Commonwealth Award winner who is currently pursuing a master degree in law has called on the federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to immediately release the detained Biafra Republic agitation leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, stating in a statement personally signed and made available to Media Newsroom on Monday, that 10 years of detention without conviction is a grave violation of the fundamental human rights of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, specifically stated verbatim that the continued detention of Mr. Kanu without conviction is not merely a legal anomaly. It is a profound failure of justice and a grave violation of his fundamental human rights. His prolonged detention exposes the widening gap between Nigeria's constitutional expectations and the daily realities of citizens. We must have a justice system that acts with both fairness and decisive strength, not one ensnared in endless procedural limbo and mired in public distrust. According to the princess, across the span of a decade, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has endured one of the longest and most troubling pre-trial detentions in Nigeria's history. Arrested in 2015, accused, pleading not guilty, and never convicted, he remains confined in a blatant defiance of the most fundamental human rights principles. Where is justice when a man stands unconvicted for 10 years, while those charged with upholding justice remain silent? The continued detention of Mr. Kanu without conviction is not merely a legal anomaly. It is a profound failure of justice and a grave violation of his fundamental human rights. His prolonged detention exposes the widening gap between Nigeria's constitutional expectations and the daily realities of citizens. We must have a justice system that acts with both fairness and decisive strength, not one ensnared in endless procedural limbo and mired in public distrust. No charge, however grave, should ever eclipse the principle that every individual is presumed innocent until proven guilty. That principle is the very cornerstone of law and must never be broken, regardless of who holds power. As we call for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's immediate and unconditional freedom, my heart goes out to millions of Nigerians, across tribal lines, generations, and economic classes, from Borno to Kwara to Lagos, crying out for help against armed violence, forced displacement, demolitions, unlawful detentions, untimely deaths, and the persistent scarcity of life's most basic necessities. Beyond politics, every life matters. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's health and spirit are at grave risk, after 10 years behind bars without a proven crime. This declaration is an urgent proclamation. We will count every second, every hour, every day, and continue to galvanize until Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is restored to his rightful freedom. Nigeria now stands at a cross of roads, where history will judge the true motives of those in power. The eyes of the world are watching, and the conscience of the nation is restless. The promise of our democracy depends not only on acts of courage within the halls of power but also on the bold, united actions of citizens. About Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, born in Isiama Afara, Abia State, Nigeria, is a Nigerian-born British citizen and leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. He has long advocated peacefully for the recognition and protection of the political, economic, and cultural rights of citizens of Nigeria's southeast. He has never been convicted of any crime, nor accused of any act of violence. His prolonged detention, despite serious legal questions surrounding his rendition and years of unbroken pre-trial custody, remains a striking violation of due process and a challenge to Nigeria's constitutional and humanitarian commitments, Princess Ola Torera-Maje Kadunmi-Aniru stated. Princess Ola Torera-Maje Kadunmi-Aniru, as stated in her website, is a transformational executive with over 2 decades of achievements across finance, technology, and global trade. She has driven strategic growth for multinational organizations and entrepreneurially. An incorruptible force for visionary progress, she remains steadfast in her commitment to elevating living standards and ensuring that no citizen is left behind. Ola Torera earned her MBA from Emory University with merit scholarships and completed executive leadership programs at the Harvard Kennedy School, Women and Power, Stockholm School of Economics, Financial Modeling and Innovation, and IMD Switzerland, Leadership. She is currently pursuing a master's in law and a doctorate in leadership, ed. Her work has earned numerous accolades, including the World Leadership Congress Award, Commonwealth Award, His Royal Majesty Uni Royal Award and Queen Moremi Leadership Award. She has delivered keynote addresses at global forums such as The Economist Growth Crossings, Women in Leadership Dubai, the Toronto Global Economic Forum, Africacom and Youth Connect.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, may have given a clearer picture on how some companies are apparently aiding and making more money from the ongoing war in his country Ukraine, saying, since the start of the war 4 years ago, some unnamed companies in the United States, US, United Kingdom, UK, China, Germany, Taiwan, Switzerland, Japan, Korea Republic, Netherlands are producing components Russia under President Vladimir Putin is using to produce weapons of mass destruction to kill his people. This, Zelensky in his own words said on Monday that, in the 4th year of the full-scale war, Russia continues to obtain components for producing weapons. During the massive combined strike on Ukraine on the night of October 5th, Russia used 549 weapon systems containing 102,785 foreign-made components from companies in the United States, China and Taiwan, the United Kingdom, Germany, Switzerland, Japan, the Republic of Korea, and the Netherlands. Nearly 100,688 of foreign-made parts were in the launched attack drones, about 1,500 were in Iskandars, 192 in Kinzhal missiles, and 405 in Calibers. Zelensky stated this in a statement made available through his personal social media profile on Monday, after about 30 people were injured as a result of the Russian attack on a moving passenger train, killing 1 person in Shostka district of Ukraine on Saturday. According to Zelensky, Ukraine is preparing new sanctions against those who help Russia and its war, and we have communicated proposals to curb the supply schemes. Partners already possess the detailed data on each company and each product. They know what to target and how to respond. This week, the G7 sanctions coordinators will meet, and we expect a systemic decision to ensure that the sanctions are truly effective. It is crucial to shut down every scheme that circumvents sanctions, because Russia uses each one to keep killing. The world has the power to stop this. In the 4th year of the full-scale war, Russia continues to obtain components for producing weapons. During the massive combined strike on Ukraine on the night of October 5th, Russia used 549 weapon systems containing 102,785 foreign-made components from companies in the United States, China and Taiwan, the United Kingdom, Germany, Switzerland, Japan, the Republic of Korea, and the Netherlands. Nearly 100,688 of foreign-made parts were in the launched attack drones, about 1,500 were in Iskanders, 192 in Kinzhal missiles, and 405 in Calibers. In particular, companies in the United States manufacture converters for Kh-101 missiles and Shahd, Iran-type drones, sensors for those UAVs and for Kinzhal missiles, analog to digital converters for drones and missiles, and microelectronics for missiles. At least 50 different microelectronic components in each Shahd are produced in China and Taiwan. Microcontrollers for UAVs are made in Switzerland, while microcomputers for drone flight control are produced in the United Kingdom. Opto-isolators for cruise missiles come from Japan, switching connectors from Germany. Russia also uses processors manufactured in the Netherlands and servomotors and bearings made in the Republic of Korea. In a separate statement, Zelensky said, "Since the start of the full-scale invasion, the capacity of Ukraine's defense industry has increased by tenfold. Our production potential for drones and missiles alone will reach $35 billion next year. Already over 40% of the weapons in use at the front are either made in Ukraine or produced with Ukraine. And the share of our weapons will only grow. The task for manufacturers, for the government of Ukraine, for all institutions involved is that by the end of the year no less than 50% of the weapons at the front must be our Ukrainian weapons, and this task must be accomplished. We need funding to unleash our full potential, and we are working with every partner who can help make this possible. It is time to start exporting our Ukrainian weapons, those types we have in surplus and can therefore export, to finance the types of weapons that are especially needed for our defense. I have already instructed the government, the office, and the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine to develop and present the key elements of such an export system. The working title of this program is Zbroya, Our Export Product. Agreements are already in place to launch export-import platforms in Europe, the United States, and the Middle East. The task is to have these platforms operational by the end of the year. I said this during the International Defense Industries Forum, which we are opening for the third time in Ukraine today. On the recent attack in Shostka area of Ukraine, Zelensky said, "Russia ignores or rebuffs literally every opportunity to end the war and guarantee security. Putin wants to wage it, and do it by terrorist, despicable methods. Russia must feel the consequences. Europe, America, the G7, and the G20 have the power to deal with any terrorist." A savage Russian drone strike on the railway station in Shostka, Sumy region. All emergency services are already on the scene and have begun helping people. All information about the injured is being established. So far, we know of at least 30 victims. Preliminary reports indicate that both Uktsalaznija staff and passengers were at the site of the strike. The Russians could not have been unaware that they were striking civilians. And this is terror the world must not ignore. Every day Russia takes people's lives. And only strength can make them stop. We've heard resolute statements from Europe and America, and it's high time to turn them all into reality, together with everyone who refuses to accept murder and terror as normal. Lip service is not enough now. Strong action is needed. Andriy Sybiha, Ukraine Minister of Foreign Affairs, also said that the attacks were targeted and deliberate Russian drone strikes on passenger trains in Shostka, Sumy region. Not one, but two strikes one after another. This is one of the most barbaric Russian tactics, the so-called double tap, with the second attack hitting rescuers and people who are evacuating. Russian terrorists must get strong responses for this deliberate and brutal terror against civilians. Words are not enough. New devastating sanctions. New strengthening for Ukraine. This can be done and must be done to raise the cost of this war for Russia. Putin must feel the danger of continuing this war personally for him and his regime. Jan Lipevsky, Czech Minister of Foreign Affairs, while reacting to the attack in the Shostka community, said, "While we are voting on Czechia's security, Russia keeps showing the world its true face. The attack on the train running from Shostka to Kyiv is yet another proof of its barbarity and state terrorism orchestrated by the Kremlin. My thoughts are with all those injured and their loved ones." But Viktor Viktop, a commentator, in his analysis, said that Zelensky claimed that Russia allegedly targeted a passenger train at the Shostka railway station. There is video of the strike, but upon closer inspection, there was no mention of any passengers. The footage shows the strike hitting a diesel locomotive and a freight train loaded with containers immediately behind it. Video 1. It looks like a typical military train. There are no pure passenger trains. Yes, one car looks similar, but the rest of the train is filled with containers. Photo 1. Most likely, this single passenger train was used to protect the cargo, a common practice when military transport is disguised as civilian. Now let's look at the schedule. No passenger trains departed from Shostka today. The last train was on October 3rd, and the next one won't be until the 5th. So it's logical to assume that there simply couldn't have been any peaceful passengers there. The free movement of military cargo across Ukraine has ended. Russia has finally started doing what it's supposed to do.
Osazuwa Connedo, bringing you the news in a more digital way. Osazuwa Connedo, bringing you the news in a more digital way.